amazing people. Welcome to Love Life LOL by Liah. This is Liah and I hope you're having an awesome day. If in case you're new to this channel, just a quick intro about what L3 stands for. We stand for unrevealing, unhiding, call it whatever you want. The raw, the unspoken side of life as it happens, if I may say. We stand for and we talk about the ugly, the beautiful truth of what we call as reality. But trust me, that's not it, you guys. We also talk about the fun, the quirky, the crazy stuff. And if you relate to any of these things, if you are as weird as I am, stick around and you're gonna love this journey. Today we're gonna talk about child sexual abuse. I know it's an intense topic, but guys, it needs to be addressed. Wikipedia defines child sexual abuse or child molestation as a form of child abuse in which an adult or an older adolescent uses a child for sexual stimulation. Child sexual abuse covers a range of illegal sexual activities, including possessing images of child sexual abuse, forcing a child to strip or masturbate, engaging in any kind of sexual activity in front of a child, including watching pornography, encouraging a child to perform sexual acts on or off camera, inappropriate sexual touching of a child, or penetrative sex. Both boys and girls can be victims of sexual abuse, but we have seen girls are more likely to be abused. There can be n number of reasons for that. One, because girls can be overpowered easily, and two, because our society perceives boys as the strong, dominant character, so not a lot of boys come forward and say that they have been abused. So what are the signs that a child is being sexually abused? Children don't often talk about sexual abuse because they think it is their fault. They guilt trip into not telling their parents what is happening with them, or they have been convinced by the abuser that it is a norm in their life or it's their special secret. Children can also be bribed or threatened by the abuser or told that you won't be believed. Doesn't matter if you tell people, but who's gonna believe you? Sometimes a child who's being sexually abused may care for their abuser and worry about getting them into trouble and thus not speak about it. So it falls upon us to keep an eye out and see if there is a child who is being abused. Just always be cautious and watch out for the signs. But before that, we need to know what a child who's being sexually abused or sexually molested feels like. And for that, I have invited a dear friend of mine on this podcast today, and we're going to speak to him about what his journey of going through abuse and then coming out of it was like. Over to you, Arsh.
Thank you so much, Liah, for having me on this panel and, letting me share my experience. And I believe you are doing a great thing by bringing out something that has been taboo for a long period of time. And people have shied away from talking about this issue, particularly because they will be shamed in the society and they will be hurled with profanities. But I'm glad that you're taking this step forward and doing something great. For me, my tryst with abuse was not during the early childhood, but was during the teenage years. And this was the first time when I left home and went to college. It started with the death of a very dear friend who was a childhood buddy, and she met with an accident. And this was my first month in college. And when this happened, first 15-20 days, it was very difficult for me to process that something like that has happened. And when it suddenly struck me, I started fearing about my life. I started seeing things. I started how should I put it? I started feeling that I am going to die. I started feeling that something is going to happen to me. There was this visual of my parents crying and, me being away from them and dying at a place where nobody knows me. And during that period only, there were a few people who came to know that I was going through a tough time and I wasn't able to sleep. I had lost appetite. I had lost a lot of weight, and it was very visible on my face that something was wrong with me. So these guys came to me and, they offered me that since I had this room, which I was staying alone, I did not have a roommate. They told me to shift with them because they had a bigger room. And so they told me till the time this semester is over, why don't you come and stay with us? And I agreed because I was tired of staying alone. I was I was just thinking about death all the time. I was just thinking about everything that could happen to me. And I was just falling into the vicious cycle of waking up in the morning completely low and then not wanting to get out of the bed and not even able to sleep. And I accepted their offer and went to their room. Initial few days were all right, and they were kind, they were pleasant, and I also started feeling better with them because it was somewhere diverting my mind, and I was with the company, and that obviously was giving me some kind of solace. After a few days, things started changing. Like they started using me for work and get us food, and trying to show that they have done a favor to me. And then it moved to hurling profanities, saying that I'm a sissy, I'm a pussy, and I'm not a man enough, that I'm not able to face this kind of a situation. So what if your friend has died? People die all the time, and you're not any special, and you're crying all the time like a girl. And they started firstly like physically abusing me, hitting me. So I went to a psychiatrist during that time, and that was a mistake that I did because I wasn't aware that I should have gone to a counselor, I should have gone to a therapist for, but I directly went to the psychiatrist, and this psychiatrist put me on the tranquilizers, and I was supposed to take these tranquilizers after the dinner. And every time I used to come back from food court after my dinner, I had taken my medicines and I used to feel really sleepy. They started hitting me, and I was in my sedation. I wasn't able to get up or do anything about it. And then they started playing very, very, very loud music near my ear so that I cannot sleep. And they said that we're doing you a favor because by doing this, they will man me up. I wasn't able to stand up for myself because I was so weak. I was at my lowest, and I had no self-respect left. I had no self-esteem left, and I kept staying in their room, and that was hurting me more because I kept feeling guilty after every night that I'm not able to stand up for myself. Later, I came to know every time I used to come back from dinner, I used to find my mattress wet. And every time I asked them why is my mattress wet, they told that pani gir gaya ya fir. But later, like after like 1.5 years, 2 years, somebody came and told me that they used to pee on my mattress, and it's on the same mattress that I used to sleep. It like this was physical abuse. It went to the level of sexual abuse because once I told them that I want to drink, they got alcohol for me and I drank a lot. And I started crying because I started missing home. I started missing my friend who had passed away, and I could not control my emotions. I started crying. And these people removed my clothes, made me completely naked, and took videos of me and circulated in the college. And I did not know they had done that because I was not in my senses. But I started seeing a change in people's behavior also. People who used to eat with me, people who used to sit with me, they also started moving away. Every eye saw me with judgment, and I could see that in every eye. I completely lost trust with people. And somehow this 1 month passed. I wasn't able to travel alone. I called my dad, told him that I'm fearing for the first time to travel through a flight because I feel my plane would crash. And everything that happened to me reminded me of accidents, plane crashes, death, and everything like that. So I had accepted the fact that I would not come back to the place. And when I went home, I told my father that I'm not coming back. He said, like, let's go home and we'll decide like whatever we want to do. Somehow when I came back, my dad and my mom, they contacted my friends and they came to live with me for a while. And I did not tell them what happened to me, but after talking to them, I felt relieved. And I just spending time with them made me like feel a little better. And then, because the warden who was there, like a chief warden, he knew my dad. I told my dad that I won't change my hostel, and he got my room changed, the entire block changed. So I was not in the same building in which those guys were. I never had an interaction with those people, and even if we crossed paths, they never said anything to me, or I never said anything to them. But even when I moved there, I could see that during my second semester, I wasn't able to cope up, could not forget what had happened, and I was homesick. I was in complete shambles because I could not take a stand for me, and I was never this person. I was a very happy person in school. I was a funny person in school. There always used to be friends around me. We always used to laugh. Everybody was fond of me. And suddenly there was this time that everybody was going away from me, and it made me feel very lonely and also put me in this cycle of self-victimization and keep thinking about it. And during that time, spirituality was one thing that kept me there. It stopped me from falling down completely. So that was my anchor I was holding onto, and that was keeping me there. And during the same time, what happened, there was a fest in Christ University, Bangalore. Nobody from the first year used to get an opportunity for the fest. Somehow I cleared all the rounds in the college and I was selected. Because of this perception about me, the seniors who went with me, they knew that they had this image in mind that I was a problematic person, and they were very cold to me for the entire journey. They kept me treating like somebody like who's not a part of their entire tribe. And when I went there, like they could not complete the rounds while I reached the semifinals. That hit them hard that we are seniors and this guy is doing good. And they did the same thing what those guys did. They started abusing me, calling me names, and saying that you're a problematic person and things like that. And even that time, I could not control myself. I caught the bus back to Udupi and reached Manipal and informed my faculties. And my faculties, they were charlatans. They were very immoral people and wanted certain kind of people with class and with certain kind of standards to be with them or to get every opportunity. And when they heard this entire story, and they made me a scapegoat in this entire thing and told me that I was a problematic person and they did not do anything wrong. And I could not tolerate the pressure and everything. And this is very normal in business phase. You have to go through this pressure. So pressure is one thing and abuse is one thing. And I wasn't able to fathom what exactly were they saying because I was unable to comprehend that I had done something wrong. And there was an entire disciplinary committee against me that was set up. But fortunately, one of my cousins was a scientist in Manipal and he came to my rescue and he told them, you guys have gone nuts and there's no need of this disciplinary committee. And somehow I got saved. But I was barred from the fest. I started looking for opportunities in other colleges. I moved to spirituality completely. I started finding solace in my own company. I started reading a lot. I used to read a lot, but for the first time, I was reading for a purpose. And when I went to the other departments for opportunities, I got those opportunities and I converted them into victories. People started knowing me. My department started feeling envious that I was going to the other departments and winning the fest, while my own department wasn't giving me recognition. And things started changing in the department as well. These were the people who had barred me from the fest and they started taking me for the fest. And by that time I was in second year, so obviously things had changed also. I got recognition that I wanted to prove myself, and I was proving myself and shutting those mouths, but there was no happiness. Every morning when I used to wake up with complete desolation. I used to wake up with no sense of achievement. Even the previous night I had won something, but still I made myself to get out of bed. I used to go to food court early in the morning, read again for 2 hours. Somehow that used to make me feel really better. And then after college, I used to go to Gurdwara there and I used to indulge myself in langar and in Gurbani and everything else. I wasn't aware that there's something called therapy. I wasn't aware that there's something called counseling that I could take and that can heal me, because Manipal was a very small town. And but by the time I was leaving that place, I had received so much love that I was getting farewell in 3 different colleges. I was getting farewell by my juniors, completely different stream who had no connection. And they say God has a way of showing people what you have done to somebody and where they have reached. And those people who had done this to me, they were there watching this and they were there while this was happening. And I had forgiven them for my own sake. And when you think about it, it changed my entire life. Everything that I did, the courses that I studied social work. And it was because I studied economics and social work. Basically, I did my master's in economics and then studied psychology, social work, because I wanted to move to humanities. I wanted to get acquainted with that kind of literature where they talk about injustices of every kind. And that was a time when I came across people who were kind, who were genuinely kind. I was at that period of my life when I was even scared of somebody's touch. And those people, every time somebody used to touch me, even by mistake, it used to send shivers down my spine and I used to become completely numb. And they understood that there was something wrong. And they talked to me. They made me trust them. They made me comfortable, and I was able to talk to them. And they normalized things for me. They normalized the touch for me. They normalized talking about this entire incident for me. That was the time I came to know that there's something called therapy that I could take. I started taking therapy and a lot of my issues started getting resolved. Whatever trauma that I was holding inside, whatever had happened, it really helped me to move on from that phase of my life. And during that time only, I founded mentoring and counseling services in my university for people who had gone through trauma or sexual abuse in the childhood, or people who have been abused by their own relatives, or any kind of molestation. We openly talked about it through activities. We used to have 2 sessions every week in different classes, ranging from humanities to management to engineering, and from different campuses. It became such a rage that we were told by government of Karnataka to hold these kind of sessions for nursing students as well. And we did that. Those people could connect to us. We realized that they have never talked about those issues to anybody. and that was our win, because at least we were making people talk, and then we were getting them connected to psychologists as well as therapists in the National Institute of Mental Health Sciences, as well as private therapists for people who could afford therapy. And that really changed things for, like, I still get messages from people like how those sessions changed their life. And that was my redemption, because when I had gone through something, I had nobody to hold me and tell me that it's going to be all right. At least me and people who were involved in this group, we were there for those people who wanted somebody to tell them it's all right. And life has moved on, like, since then. I am not the same person I was 5 years back, and I have received love of a lot of people. I trust people. I see beauty in little things. I see beauty in every person that passes my way, and it has been a beautiful experience. It has been a beautiful journey. So everybody out there who have gone through this, I just want to say this should not stop you from talking about it. This should not stop you from seeking help. You cannot let those people win who did that to you, because this is exactly what they wanted to do to you, to shut you up, to make you meek and to make you weak. One thing that I wrote in front of my study table when I was going through this phase, it said, and I want to tell everybody who's listening to this, these are lines by Wordsworth, and he says, "Hope smiles from the threshold of the years to come. Whispering it will be happier."
Thanks a lot, Arsh. I'm speechless. The first time I heard a part of your story, I was almost in tears. I didn't know the whole story. I mean, today you opened up. Thanks a lot for that. It's going to help a lot of people. And hats off to you. You have been brave throughout. How you came out of it, how you showed it to them that masculinity is not defined by people around us. That is what is toxic masculinity. You can cry and you can be a man. You don't have to hide your tears or shy away from your feelings to be a man. You have done amazing work with the counseling, where you made sure that people had at least someone to talk to. And I believe that's what we all are doing right now, making sure that people who are going through this have someone to talk to, have someone that understands them. Thanks a lot for joining us today, Arsh. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Liah, and thank you for being such an amazing person.
I really hope that, people learn something from this. When they feel that they are down on their knees, they have the will to stand up back on their feet and stand up for themselves. Whatever abuse, be it physical, emotional, sexual, mental, they stand up for themselves and say no to it. That's it for today's episode, guys. I'll be back in the next episode discussing the same topic, as we have a child psychologist on board who would be explaining what child sexual abuse is, how can we prevent it, the impact of abuse on children, how can we discover if a child is being abused, and how can a child heal and recover from this trauma. That's all for today, guys. If you liked this episode, please drop in a like and share with your friends. If you're new to my channel, please do subscribe to Love Life LOL by Liah and be a part of our amazing L3 community. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and the list goes on and on and on. If you got something you want me to talk about, or you want to be a part of the show, you can drop me a message on Instagram. My Instagram handle is given in the description, so yeah, do check it out. And thank you for listening in. I'll see you next week, same day, same time. Till then, this is Liah signing off.